Armie Hammer.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Love the film.
Thank you very much.
Seen it 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And the first kind of interesting question I have for you is I was doing my research, making sure I knew, about you and wasn't asking stupid questions. And I was really surprised to find out that you don't have a rowing background. Because you're 5'6".
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
6'5".
That's the Lexidisic way, yeah.
I'm not even 5'6". You're 6'5". I'm 5'4". I rowed for 3.5 years in college.
You did, really?
I did, really. And
Three
you
and
didn't.
a half years?
Yeah, and
That's
you
so
didn't.
long to abuse yourself.
I know.
Oh my God.
No, I know. And I only stopped because I injured myself. But I just find it amusing that you never did it. And
Yeah.
if only I had had your body, I would have been like the best female rower ever.
When our rowing coach saw us for the first time, Josh, who was also there, he was a rower at Dartmouth, so he's more built like a rower. But I guess I have like a body type that would be like conducive for the sport.
Tall, lean.
Yeah, and the coach was like, "You've never rowed before? Are you freaking kidding me? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get you on a regimen. After you finish the movie, you're gonna start training. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not doing this after the movie. Like, it was, excuse me, it was so much fun while I was doing it during the movie. But I mean, that is an abusive sport. Yeah. I mean, you stop because you're injured. But what people don't get is, like, that's the reason why 99% of all rowers stop, because they get injured. Like, it's like...
Well, it's a very obsessive thing. Like, once you start...
You can't stop,
If you're a perfectionist by nature, which I was, and if there's something about it, like, you like team sports and you're also a perfectionist, it just, like,
it's a team sport,
but
it's so much about the individual.
Right.
Like, you have to have that drive to, like, push yourself to the point of, I think I'm going to puke or die, but then maintain that for, 3 hours during practice. I mean, it's
and train 3 times a day. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Totally insane. So
good for you for rowing.
Thanks.
Yeah,
but I can't believe you didn't.
You said you had a bad back. That's why.
Right. So I was planning on talking about rowing and like the nitty gritty, but you didn't do it. But you did train. Like, what was the training process like for you?
It was long. We were training start to finish. I'd say about 8 months. Okay. We started training in September, October, around there, and then trained, and then we finished principal photography on the movie on February. Somewhere in February, but then we kept rowing until July, which is when we actually went to England to go shoot the Royal Regatta. So it was, give or take, around 8 months of, 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, like in a boat, on the water, Josh and myself in a pair, rowing with the coach on the launch, like yelling at us the whole time. And it felt like real rowing practice. We were rowing.
Was there a lot of pressure to kind of keep up with Josh since he did come from a rowing background?
Not so much pressure, but more like I appreciated that, like, thank you for picking up the slack here, buddy. Like, it's like he probably had more work to do than I did, and like, he made it easier for me.
Well, that's one of the important things if you're in a boat of 2, 4, or 8. Like, you have to trust that the other person is going to kind of, be your right hand or, like, to compensate for whatever. If you're going too high, they have to fix that, and, like, you have to be so in
And Josh
tune.
had that technique and know how to be able to fix it. Like, if I caught too early or anything like that, he would know how to compensate because he had prior experience, which was good to have. It's like having training wheels in the boat almost.
Yeah, it's great. So I think, like, overall, like, The Social Network seems kind of like a really well orchestrated 8.
Yeah,
like,
okay, yeah.
So if you're in this boat, like, all the rowers are the actors, and you have a really great coxswain who's Fincher.
Right.
And
that's
you have this really great writer, Aaron Sorkin, who's kind of like, all right, here's like the Royal Henley or whatever, and like I'm gonna like dictate, this path for you and navigate it. So I think it's a really well done, because I think all of the actors in the film really pull their own weight. So to speak.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure.
And you're rowing too.
Yeah. I had to learn to row both sides.
I did too. It's hard. But it makes you better, and it makes your body not lopsided, which is a good thing.
However, I didn't spend as much time rowing starboard as I did port. So, as soon as we switched to port on the rowing days, it was always like 12 hours a day in a boat, shooting this like scenes, like just like
over and over.
Camera on the oarlock, and we just row for 5 minutes. Then we turn around and row the other direction for 5 minutes. And we turn around and row the other direction. I mean, it was all day for 12 hours.
So Cameron versus Tyler, was one of them designated as the port and the starboard?
Yes.
Which is which?
Cameron rowed port, and Tyler was starboard.
Okay. So playing, I read that you did most of Cameron's footage first, and then you would move on to Tyler. Is that right?
No, I would always start as Cameron.
Cameron.
So the guy with the updo and all that stuff, and then Josh would play Tyler, and then we would shoot it until Fincher was done with it, and he'd say, okay, switch. And then I'd go and I'd change clothes, change hair, change makeup, and then sit where Josh was seated and basically do the scene again with nobody else on set. So it was just like.
So he wouldn't then play Cameron. You would just play Tyler by yourself.
Right, because for the instances where they did use split screen, there couldn't be any movement. So when I played Tyler, the other twin, they would lock down the set. So they would literally put a piece of tape on a wall and say, "That's your brother there," and then they'd put a tennis ball over there and say, "That's Mark, or that's Larry Summers, or whoever. This is the tennis ball right there." And then I'd put an earwig in my ear of myself playing Cameron on a previous take. So I would have.
Respond.
Yes, so I would have also the tempo of the scene and all that stuff. So I'd have the sound guy play it, and I'd listen to it, and I'd hear, okay, 2 beats between those 2 lines, so I got to get that line out quickly. But then I got 4 beats between those 2 lines, so I can kind of lollygag a little bit, maybe give him some attitude. But then he cuts me off, but then I cut him off, so it's like I had to figure all that out before we started filming the scene.
Hard.
Yeah, it was so much more technical.
Technical part, like on set, after the characters are kind of worked out, was that the most challenging?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was tough. It was very strange. And like the first couple days were a little bit like trying to figure out how this machine works. But then, like you said, Fincher is that great Cox. He's such an exemplary leader that we were able to get it down to a process. And we were able to kind of figure it out. And
you got in the flow of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really what, as an actor, that's really what each process is about, not conforming to another process, but figuring out how that process can then work with your process.
How to kind of coexist with it, and change the way you're functioning or whatever.
Yeah.